Thursday, December 13th, Friday, December 14th, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the snowy mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We welcome you nightly on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. And if you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store that's coming online soon, read up on Captain Shirk's SOR Newswire, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel In Suho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Go to spacedoutradio.com, click on the In Suho banner, and click on the channel today. Tonight, we head deep into the waters of the paranormal as we are joined once again by David Weatherly. And in next hour, we're going to be joined by Ross Allison as well about their latest tandem book called, well, it's part of their Haunted series, really. This time it's about haunted ships. For centuries, sailors have told tales from the oceans and waters about ghost ships floating about. Ships that are retired and still in port, still having its crew wander the galleys. And of course, there are those who've witnessed this supernatural phenomena. Spiritual people may say that the water may have a record button, or record button, rather, to memorize its history. But some of these stories will absolutely blow your mind. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, Olaf Phillips will be back with another edition of the SOR Newswire. David Weatherly, it's been a couple of months since we've had you on this program. It is always a pleasure. Actually, I think the last time we had you on was when you were live in studio here with Ross and Grant Cameron, and I still got the autographed tinfoil right beside me here, man. Good to see you. Good to have you back. And what a pleasure it was to meet you face to face. And I want to tell the audience before I get started, and I'm not trying to make you blush here or anything or hang up, but I can tell you this, people. David Weatherly has this very very, very good reputation because he's a stand-up dude, stand-up guy. And after meeting you, Dave, it confirmed everything that I had expected in who you were after only getting to know you on the phone. So I'm so glad to have had the pleasure back in September to shake your hand, give you a hug, and say thanks for doing everything you do to be on Spaced Out Radio for us and our listeners.
Hey, man, it was great being up there. I really appreciated the opportunity to get up and visit some Canadian friends like you, and the conference was fantastic. And, man, that was a good time doing the live in-studio broadcast with, myself and you and Ross and Grant Cameron. And then we had John Tenney on the phone. It was a great night.
Oh, wasn't it? Hey, I got to ask you, this is purely for selfish reasons. I realize our listeners all over the world don't know where the hell I live or anything like that. But what did you think of being out here in the wilderness of British Columbia and seeing all of these places that were pretty much virgin territory for paranormal investigation?
Oh, it's beautiful country, man. Absolutely. Now, you'd have a hard time getting me up there in the dead of winter, but
yeah, I don't blame you there.
I'll stick with my Southwest deserts, but it's a fantastic, it's a beautiful place. All the people were just warm and exactly what I expected. You got some great people up there around you, and Ross and I had a fantastic time checking out some of these sites. Of course, the museum that you're affiliated with, and we had a chance to get up and see a couple of other things, including Mandy, the haunted doll that is covered in our Haunted Toys book. And,
yes.
It was good times. It definitely was. And, the turnout and the enthusiasm with the people that were at the conference, I tell you, if you're in that region and you missed this conference, you really missed something special this year. And, whatever you do, try to get there in 2019, because I think that as long as you guys keep going with this, it's going to keep getting better and improving every year.
Well, you know what? I appreciate it. We are trying to get something going here. My focus has been on the radio show for the last couple of months and will be, but we're hoping to try and figure things out here by the end of January, and we will make sure that we get it going. But I can tell you this, we're going to hold it a few weeks earlier, so that way there's no chance or very little chance that you'll actually get caught up in a snowstorm like you did.
Hey, I wasn't too concerned about it. Ross was pretty. He was really getting kind of worked up with all the snow that was falling the morning that we left. But it just made for some beautiful scenery. And
oh yeah,
it's interesting if no one. I've been to British Columbia before. It's been a long time, and been to places like Vancouver and Vancouver Island. But up where you guys are. It's such a different slice of the world. And if you're interested in strange phenomena, this is an eye-opening type of place to go because get around to what I'm trying to say is a lot of people, they live in large cities. They spend most of the time around large cities. So some of these sightings and reports sound a little bit out there. But when you go to an area that's very raw and very in touch with nature and much more rural, it gives you a different perspective on how easy it would be for something like Bigfoot to be wandering around in the wilds of British Columbia and be undetected. You've got vast stretches of land up there that just don't see humans on a regular basis. The same is true. We were out admiring the sky, and how little light pollution there is and how easy it is to stargaze and to watch for different things. So it's just interesting to see that after hearing some of your experiences up there and being able to, match that up visually. It was pretty cool.
Well, I appreciate that. And you'll be proud to know, okay, because I have, over the last couple of months, I have had to become one with the gnomes. You actually gave me, I want you to say this to our audience, what you told me, because you actually gave me a very stern talking to about the gnomes.
Well, the little people, that's a whole long conversation, but essentially, these little people legends can be found all over the world. And a lot of people aren't aware of that fact because they hear gnome or they hear leprechaun or little people or whatever, and they automatically think, oh, they're all in Ireland or Europe somewhere or something. No, that's not the case. You can find these traditions, you can find these legends in traditional cultures all over the planet, and it's pretty fascinating how consistent they are. North America has a very rich tradition of little people stories. And I've got quite a collection of accounts and reports that I've collected over the years. These reports go back to the Native Americans. And many of the native tribes in North America talked about these little people that existed possibly before their tribe, certainly as far back in their tribal memory as they were aware, and still exist today. And, there are some very defined beliefs about these little people. One of them is that you should respect them or that they will cause you a lot of problems. So, so the audience is aware. I kind of let Dave have it about his expressed nastiness towards gnomes. And, if it's a fear that you have, then, find a way maybe to deal with it or move past it, or at least show them some respect, or you're going to have a lot more trouble, is what I told him. And I cited a couple of cases that I was familiar with from people who had, decided to be rather confrontational with these little people when they felt their presence and had some real misfortunes that they connected to them. And there's not many people that collect these stories. I know John Tenney and I have talked about it quite a bit because he collects accounts of these little people too. So it's a fascinating subject. And unfortunately, a lot of people now, they just kind of laugh at it and they think, oh, it's, they're just garden gnomes or something off of television or whatever. But no, it's a very rich, fascinating history.
Well, one of the stories that we actually got told, and I just mentioned this a few weeks ago on the show, is we got invited by up here, and you and I had a great conversation with a gentleman who's a former chief of the Canham Indian Band up here named John Archie. And he actually invited us on a little trek in April, if you're able to get back up here, or whenever you're able to get back up here. And remember when he was talking about taking us up the mountain, and we had to go past the Spirit Grizzly Bear in order to try and visit the village of the Little People up in the mountains.
Right.
You know, and I'm pretty excited about that. Pretty excited about potentially doing that.
You just have to take them an offering day.
I'll bring them. I'll bring them new hats. I don't know. I don't know.
Well, you know, John Archie, that was a great conversation, and he's a pretty fascinating person. Obviously, a great resource for you know, some of the local traditional lore and everything. So he would probably know what is a suitable offer. But these accounts, some of them, they become very connected to the tribes that are in the region too. And you'll see similarities in, the stories and how they're expressed with the local Native Americans around North America. And then some of these accounts, what's fascinating to me is that there are contemporary reports of these little people, but where do these reports go? I can't tell you how many people have told me about their encounters, and they'll tell me, I honestly, I don't know who to report this to. I can't call MUFON. I'm not going to call the Bigfoot organization. Who wants to hear this kind of a report? And what exactly happened to me? These people are, and of course, it's one of those things that really makes people question their sanity or their experience a lot of the times, because, this is something that's even a step beyond, okay, well, I think I saw a Bigfoot, or I think I saw a UFO. This is something that goes even beyond that, because it's so sort of outside of the norm, but yet again, it has this long and, very rich history.
For people who don't understand what little people are, we're not talking about, little people that we know today. We're talking about people that are apparently, maybe 12 to 18 inches tall, have their own communities. There's a lot of legends about them, especially in the South, in the United States with the Cherokee Nation, and up here right across Canada with the First Nations. There is a lot of these little communities. So what do we know about them?
We use the term little people as a generic term to really describe something that's very, very broad. Little people, wee folk is something you hear. The Fae is something you'll hear if you go to Europe, the places like Ireland. And what we're talking about is, a race of beings that are humanoid in appearance but are very small. And a lot of these traditions say that these little people existed, along with humans at one point, but that when you start listening to the stories, it sounds like they're interdimensional, because they will appear and vanish very quickly, as if they're going through some kind of magical doorway. And the old fairy lore will say, and they went through a glowing doorway or whatever. So we're essentially talking about these traditions of another race of beings that coexisted with humans all the way along, and were much more visible, if you will, at certain periods of history, until they decided to just become more and more, scarce and less easily noticeable, if you will. So the scientific, rational minds that came in during, the Age of Enlightenment and so forth, started looking at these stories and saying, no, it's just folklore, there's no such thing. this didn't really happen, so on and so forth. But then you get these accounts, contemporary accounts. Okay, here's one from a police officer who experienced seeing these little people, a group of them, dancing around in a stone circle. And, he heard this strange music. And, I mean, this is a cop with a long history on the force, hadn't seen any things like this before. He wasn't smoking, he wasn't drinking, he wasn't doing anything, that should have altered his consciousness in any way. But he's on a piece of land that is taboo to the Native Americans in the region, and he witnesses something that is just, to him, mind-blowing. And at the same time, he's thinking, okay, this is something that the tribal people have talked about, and I know these things exist here. So, yeah, we talk about the term little people, and it really encompasses a lot of different traditions. You've got gnomes, you've got elves, leprechauns, you even go to Hawaii, you've got the Menehune. So you go to different places and you hear these different names for the little people, but they all are somewhat consistent in what they're talking about, in that they're talking about these small little humanoids that seem to come and go at will from somewhere.
It's an incredible legend, and I think if we have the opportunity, David, to go up there and see something, if that spirit grizzly bear allows us to, this is, I don't know, I may run fast, and I'm a slow runner, man. I don't know how I'll react. It was very interesting to me when we were talking to John Archie, and I wanted to ask you this on the air, is our area has a plethora of Bigfoot sightings. Yet I was very surprised when he said his First Nation doesn't really have a lot of interaction with Bigfoot. He said a couple of people do, but more so, he kept on talking about the Star People, including his own children who have been chased by UFOs, who have been taken. And it's pretty incredible when you get that opportunity to talk spiritually and openly with First Nations elders, because the stories that they have are pretty profound to what we do.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I mean, what you got a question in there, though?
Well, I'm just saying how important. Yeah, I should have said this. How important is it, though, for researchers like yourself, David, to take those First Nations accounts, because they are more one with Mother Earth than most of us are, and take them for what they really are, as potential evidence and or fact?
Oh, that's something that I really have tried to spend my life doing. As you know, my background, aside from pursuing all of these things, has been delving into shamanic traditions from around the world. So, to me, and I got involved with both of these things when I was very young. I was a teenager. So, to some degree, it gave me a very different perspective, because studying with these various traditional peoples, all of them, hands down, had a very open and holistic view towards strange phenomena. The supernatural to them was just part of their natural cosmology. It was part of their world. It was part of what made up our lives here. So, these topics would come up, and with few exceptions, these things were openly discussed, and be like, oh yes, we know about this. We know about the little people or the star beings or whatever the topic was. So I think that that's incredibly important. A lot of researchers have discarded it over the years, and they've created this big gap where they say, okay, well, no, we're collecting modern data. Those native stories and stuff, that's folklore, And the thing is that I think we have to take a much broader view and understand that what some people might consider folklore or myth was possibly their best attempt at an interpretation of what they were experiencing. So you do get some fantastic elements, obviously, in some of the stories. But at the same time, when you sit down and talk to these elders, whether it's in the Southwest or Canada or Africa or wherever it is, and you hear these accounts, and they're telling you these stories that have been passed down very often through oral tradition and repeated the same exact way over and over and over again. And coinciding with that, you have generations of people who have these experiences, and they add to the whole of what their perception of this phenomena is. Then that's an incredible wealth of information that we as researchers really need to be accessing and utilizing more whenever possible.
We only got about 2 minutes left before we got to go to break here at the bottom of the hour, Dave. We have a little bit of a schedule change since the last time you were on. We added bottom of the hour breaks, much to the chagrin of myself and our audience. But as we prepare for terrestrial radio, it's one of those things we had to do. But in the end, when it comes to legends, whether it's little people, whether it's trolls, fairies, or the Fey realm, Bigfoot, or whatever, what are we as a mainstream society not seeing compared to, say, First Nations tradition and what they see?
Oh, good gosh. That's a big question for 2 minutes. Now,
we can continue that. Why don't you start, and we'll continue that right after the break as well.
Yes, certainly. I mean, I think there's a few different ways to look at it. In terms of lifestyle, most westernized people, their perceptions and awareness are very much dulled down. I think we've talked about this before, you and I, the amount of people that are glued to a cell phone, for instance, even when they're out in public. And, look at how many people are in accidents because they're texting and driving. These types of things have brought this, this modern technology has brought this centralized view towards just technology. And it's to the detriment of being aware of our environment and what we, possibly could be perceiving. I get on people too. Ross and I have talked about this a lot in terms of paranormal investigation. We've got some incredible equipment that's available to us now as investigators, but there's an element that's been created where people will go into an investigation, into a location, and they're glued to a piece of equipment. So What are they missing in terms of personal experience? Yes, utilize the
David,
equipment.
I'm going to get you to hold on right there. We got to step out right now. David Weatherly, our guest. We got Ross Allison coming up at the top of the hour. We'll be back on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com. Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject, from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio. Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
Welcome back to the second half hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. David Weatherly is with us, writer of the Haunted series, one of the world's premier, world's premier, in my opinion, paranormal researchers. We'll be joined by Ross Allison at the top of the hour as well to talk about their new book, Haunted Ships. But right before the break, David, we were talking about First Nations legends and why we in the paranormal field may be missing a lot of that information because we do not want to go down that road of what we call folklore. And unfortunately, I had to cut you off because of it. But, I would like you to continue that road, if you don't mind. Why it's important.
Well, sure. I think, and I may have been understanding your question differently, but, you were talking about what we were missing in terms of native, traditional First Nations and so forth. And, I think one of the things is that a lot of these native peoples, they're still much more in touch on a larger scale than many westernized people are. And, I'm speaking in a very general way. So, nobody take offense or anything about it. But, there's become this thing in the Western world where we're so focused on our technology and, so many people walk around with their heads buried in their phone and so forth. And if you are able to step away from that and, have a greater level of awareness, as traditional people did, and not just First Nations peoples, traditional European peoples, African peoples, and so forth, they all had a greater level of awareness in terms of their environment and the things that were transpiring around them. And, we're missing that in modern times. And, of course, coinciding with that, we're missing, in a lot of ways, the concept of listening to these people and listening to their traditions and what they have to say. Thankfully, I've seen that starting to change some, and I've seen more First Nations peoples and traditional elders coming out and talking about a lot of these topics because people are willing to listen now. And, it's only going to benefit our field as that continues to unfold. So, I think that we just need to broaden our perspective. Again, I'm speaking in general terms, people in the field need to broaden the perspective a little bit and listen to these traditional tales and try to look at it in a different light and think, okay, well, what exactly were they experiencing? What have these people, been experiencing for hundreds of years on their land?
Do you think maybe there are solutions there that we just have not investigated? Because some of the roles that First Nations people have with these traditional creatures, if we can call them that, they seem to have relationships or they have that healthy respect of when to stay away. And I'm wondering if maybe there are some answers with the First Nations people that we just have overlooked. I think there are. I don't know where, but I think it would bring us closer to some of these solutions that we're seeking.
Yeah, well, I'd certainly say that there are different approaches there, and that may lead to answers. I think that a lot of times what you're going to find as you delve into this stuff, because I have delved into it a lot, is that you'll find perspectives and you'll find opinions, and it's often based on a long-standing tradition. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is a defined answer there, and I'll give an example of what I mean. The the Navajo reservation here in the American Southwest, there is, a very different view towards these supernatural elements. And there is a long-standing tradition on the Navajo reservation of the Sasquatch. Now, to the Dene, or the Navajo, as they're commonly called, the Sasquatch, beings are just another tribe of that coexist along with the Navajo. And their tradition says that, they should just be left alone. So there are sightings. There are a lot of sightings on the reservation. And there's a high level of awareness that these things are there. But there's also a very much accepted opinion among a large portion of the Navajo population that, oh yeah, we know about them, but they should be left alone. Now, that's fascinating, and it's it's okay. Wow. Okay. Well, they've accepted. These creatures have been there long back in their oral tradition, but it doesn't really give us any clear answers as to exactly what these creatures are.
Well, it's going to be interesting to see, because once that blend starts happening, I think we are going to be opening up to so many different paths right now, so many different paths, and I'm excited to see it go that way. I hope it does.
I think it would it's benefit. Happening already.
Yeah,
it's happening already, and one of the things that I'm happy to see in the field in general is that there are more people finally taking a holistic approach to these things. So things were so segmented for many years, and none of my influences early on were like that. I was looking at people like John Keel and Jacques Vallée, and of course tribal traditions and all these different things. And I always looked at this broad spectrum of phenomena, not running around saying, no, I only study UFO sightings that are clearly nuts and bolts, craft and so forth. And I think that a lot of our answers are going to come by taking a more holistic approach and asking more questions. The field has gotten so overrun right now with researchers that we take the good with the bad. We've got a lot of fantastic people out there. We've got a lot of newer people that have a great amount of enthusiasm, and that's where some good things are going to come from. And at the same time, unfortunately, we have a lot of people that pop up in the field and, they've been around for a couple of years, and hey, they've got all the answers. They have everything figured out. And they will tell you exactly, what the answer is. So most of those people, when I encounter them, I suggest they go take up knitting or something, because they've clearly, solved everything in the paranormal. So it's probably time to move along.
Well, that's a wonderful approach, actually. Speaking of what you're doing in the paranormal, Ross Allison, who was on last month on Ghosts of the Great White North with me and Mike Morin, he had mentioned that you and him and a few others are looking at potentially creating a real stable of primetime type investigators, A-list type investigators, who almost, and if I'm wording this wrong, I apologize, but are thinking about writing up some sort of game plan or rule book or set of guidelines for paranormal investigation on how to do it properly, which I think is completely necessary in this field, because, it's paranormal anarchy is what I like to call it. How is that going, and why is that so necessary, do you think?
I didn't hear that conversation, so we'll have to get Ross on and put him on the spot and find out exactly what he was saying. It may have been somewhat misinterpreted. The first part obviously is not, and I can explain that a little bit more. So several years ago, I started investigating some with Dave Spinks, who you've had on the air before.
Great guy.
And, we had a couple of other people that would float in and out investigating with us. And the thing is that, having been in this field for so long, early on, of course, back in the late 70s, early 80s, I had a couple of different paranormal teams. And frankly, I kind of got over that. I've never been interested in the politics or worried about, titles or touting that I'm, the designated whatever team lead or team this or that. And, very quickly moved to a point where a lot of my research was independent, and I would often, and I still do often, travel and work with other people that I know in the field. I'm blessed to know an awful lot of people in the field, some incredible investigators and researchers. So I still love doing that. And along the way encountered, Dave Spinks, and he and I investigated some. And the funny thing is that we were doing some live stream stuff, and we kept getting asked, what do you guys call yourself? Who's this and who's that? And we had to make a point of going on a show or something and saying, look, we don't have any team titles. There's nothing, this is not that kind of thing. And after a long discussion between he and I, we came up with this name, so to speak, Society of the Supernatural. Now, the full intent was behind that was to keep moving forward and do something non-traditional and very different. So we sort of set that a lot more in motion, I guess about a year or so, year and a half ago. And the reason we used the term society was that, I being interested in a lot of history of ghost hunting and paranormal research and so forth, was well familiar with the London Ghost Club, which had strived to be a very dedicated group of people with experience in the field that wanted to do something more. And we loosely based Society of the Supernatural on that concept, with the idea of taking it and pushing it even further, encompassing not just the study of haunted locations, but also cryptids, UFOs, and psychic phenomena, all these things that relate to this field. So we started adding some people, and if you go in and look at the Facebook page now, you'll see we've got, I think, a pretty incredible roster of people at this point. We have Ross Allison, who has, I think, 25 years experience, 30, something like that. He must have around 30 years experience. We've got Rosemary Ellen Guiley, who surely everyone knows her name. She's written an incredible number of books and a good friend of mine. So we've got this incredible lineup of people. We've got Eric Altman out of Pennsylvania, who has researched cryptids for many, many years. We just added Barry Gaunt, who a lot of people in the field will recognize as the Kentucky Truth Seeker, as his nickname was for many years. And Barry has an amazing background in ufology and other areas. So, the idea is to continually expand this, and we're not trying to throw in a whole bunch of people. It's been a very organic process, and the idea is to create a society of people that can work together and rely on each other. And we want to know exactly what we're getting if we're talking to other members of SOS. And we want people that within the organization that we can all depend on to, if we need to pick up the phone and say, hey, what do you think of this, and so forth. So it's a very grandiose idea, and quite honestly, I hope it's a concept that long outlives me, because I think the field needs just that alone, at this point, an organization that has, and again, this is not to insult anyone, but awful lot of teams out there that, are thrown together very suddenly, and they change constantly. And, it's people with maybe a lot of enthusiasm, but not a lot of time in the field. And we're just trying to be something a little bit different, and, hopefully make a difference in the field.
All right. So during that speech, I had a lot of time to think about, that whole rule book or guideline. I think I brought that up to Ross. I think that's what it was, Dave. All right. But I mean, it does bring a logical question to you now, though, Dave. I mean, here you are building this super group of paranormal investigators in SOS and using the word paranormal as an umbrella term for absolutely everything.
Right.
Why, if you guys have the time or the ability, you definitely got the right people involved. Why not write a rule book or guideline? And maybe people will start following it to try and clean up what is basically a big mess out there for paranormal investigation.
Yeah. It's not something we've discussed that much at this point. And the thing is that I guess I try to be a bit more humble, and I wouldn't be so bold as to put out a book that says this is how to do it. I've seen there are other people in the field who have created, courses and certifications and degrees. And frankly, a lot of that I think is BS, because, what's the precedent? Where are you getting this from, under what guidelines, what authority, and so forth. So, I certainly think it would be beneficial maybe to have some books out there that suggest parameters for investigations. Here's an approach. But, our field constantly evolves and changes, especially with all the new technology that's being created. So, again, it's something I think that has to be a continually organic process. And if you look at different spectrums of it, some of it is even hard to, I don't want to use the word regulate, but some of it's hard to standardize in a sense. For instance, if a team uses a intuitive, a psychic, what kind of guidelines or rules do you put on that? You can come up with some, but I think we're working in such an untested field, that a lot of, or not untested, but a field that, so much of what we're doing is experimental on an ever-evolving basis that we have to keep it open-ended to an extent. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think it does. And I think that's probably the best way to answer it. But for the younger people coming up, even with the technology, and to use what you said earlier, maybe we're becoming too reliant on that and forgetting how to think on our own and use our own intuition or consciousness in order to try and help find the answers in combination with the technology.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's where there can be some things produced that assist with that. A great example, Ross put out a book called My Haunted Journal. And it's a great book. It's available on Amazon, and it essentially is it's sort of a guidebook to show you how to document things that are going on in your environment if you believe your house may be haunted. And, it includes sample forms to fill out and so forth. And it really was a great concept. And what's funny is, you put something like that out, and then there's a lot of people in the field that get sort of insulted by it because they think, well, I don't need this. I know what I'm doing. And, we've got this weird gap right now, because the thing is that so many people in the field, their expertise has come from watching reality television. And, people forget, okay, well, maybe some of those people on television are real investigators, but you're seeing a snippet of what they experienced. You're not, it's just not the same thing to film a television show as it is to do, a very defined investigation in a singular location for a week. So, you have to understand the difference. And, if you want to do both approaches, that's fine. But I just think that there's a lot of holes in our field right now, and it's a real challenge to determine how to fill those gaps and help people in the best way possible.
do you look at taking more of a scientific approach with that, or just a parallel look where science equates to the same as consciousness, equates to the same as psychic ability and intuition?
Well, because of my shamanic background, my approach is more the latter. And, to a degree, I have to kind of, it kind of puzzles me when people loudly proclaim that they're taking a scientific approach, because, by the definition of a scientific experiment, that rarely happens in a haunted location or otherwise, because it's not laboratory conditions. It's not something that you're getting to, repeat over and over and over again, and so forth. So, in terms of traditional science, we've got a long way to go before we're actually going to be able to embrace that. But I don't have any issues with that, because I think that, really all of what we're doing is experimental science, if you will. We're trying to find the best ways that we can to understand something that is outside the parameters of traditional science, because a haunting doesn't conform to something that could be tested in the laboratory.
Very true. Very true. And David, on that note, I'm going to get you to hold on. We're going to go to a break here at the top of the hour. David Weatherly is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And in hour number 2, we're going to be calling in Ross Allison to join us from David's SOS team, as well as Spooked in Seattle and the Death Museum. Definitely got to check that out. And of course, we're going to get to their haunted series of books, their most recent book being Haunted Ships. I'm excited about this one. I think this is a real forgotten subject of the paranormal. The oceans, the lakes. We'll see where it goes on Spaced Out Radio, hour number 2, coming up next.
Every night on Spaced Out Radio, we have places for you to hang out. Hi, this is Carl. Join our SOR Space Travelers group on Facebook for live chat. On Twitter, using hashtag Spaced Out Radio. You can also join us in our Spreaker chat room. Check us out on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR. All of our archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. By the way, I'll be watching you at your window until you do.
Looking for the stories of the strange and weird that you will find hard to find anywhere else? Check out the SOR Newswire on our website. Our writers, led by Captain Shirk, are scouring the world for the oddest and most bizarre stories we can find. Everything from weird crime to suspenseful and paranormal. We're working hard for you to bring you the most intriguing news of your day. Check out the SOR Newswire at spacedoutradio.com today.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
It's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show.
Welcome back to hour number 2 of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us this evening. Tomorrow night on the show, Pat Fitzhugh joins us. We're going to have an exciting discussion about the Bell Witch. We get going at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Remember, all of our archives are free for you at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do me the favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Spectrophoto fluorometrically. Holy cow, I think I got it. Spectrophoto fluorometrically? Oh, well, whatever. I think I got it right the first time. But Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot soon, shop at our brand new store, read up on the SOR Newswire provided by Captain Shirk, and so much more. Tonight we are talking with David Weatherly, and we have now been joined by Ross Allison. They're Haunted Series books. If you haven't checked these out, you can go on Amazon. You got to get them. They are fantastic. These two are such talented writers and real, true investigators of the paranormal. That's why we have them on here. Their latest book is called Haunted Ships and Lighthouses. David, welcome back to the show.
Thanks, man.
And Ross, good to have you back. It's only been a few weeks when you were on with Mike Morin and myself on Ghosts of the Great White North, but it's always a pleasure to have you on as well.
Oh, it's always a pleasure to be on.
Well, you know what? We got to mention why you were an hour late coming on. You were actually with your team having a Christmas get-together tonight. I'd love it if you gave a shout-out to your great staff that helps you out down at Spooked in Seattle in the Haunted Death Museum.
Yes, we had our Christmas party for all of our staff, and just wanted to let them know that we appreciate everything that they do for us, and having to deal with all of our crap sometimes can be very stressful. But yeah, we had a great time. You know, pizza and Cards Against Humanity. It's always our tradition, I guess, every year. And Ross has had a lot of spiked eggnog, so it's going to be an interesting show tonight.
It's going to be absolutely fantastic. Before we get into the whole haunted ships and lighthouses, because that's the main focus of tonight, when you guys were up here, we got to introduce you guys to a doll that you hadn't met yet, in Mandy the Haunted Doll. And it was funny because after we were up there, I actually saw a number of articles in Canadian media, because we were close to Halloween, about the hauntings of Mandy the Haunted Doll. That was pretty cool to actually see, because we had just seen her a few weeks previous to that. You know, you guys wrote a book on haunted dolls. You gave an amazing presentation about them at the Spaced Out Radio Caribou Paracon. How exciting was it for you to cross that one doll off your list that you haven't seen, Ross?
Well, I thought it was great. It's always nice when you write these stories about these, toys, or, as we're going to talk about ships and lighthouses, when you have that opportunity to actually visit that location and, have more of a personal feel for it. So when you get to see, Mandy the doll, it's really kind of cool, and actually hear more stories, especially from the staff that work there, and talk about their encounters. So, it just adds more credibility to these stories that, unfortunately, you just, see through the media or sometimes even on the internet. And now to actually be one-on-one with these encounters, it's pretty cool.
Now, David, you guys are down to just one doll you guys have not seen in your Haunted Dolls book, and I believe that's one in Australia.
Yeah, well, I think there might be a couple of others that Ross hasn't seen, but out of the more well-known ones, for me it's Letta, who is in Australia. And,
Letta's a good one.
Yeah, I think, Ross, you have not seen one of them, right? Is it Annabelle you haven't seen?
Annabelle I haven't yet seen. Yeah, I have not seen Annabelle, so I'm kind of excited to see one. But I also haven't seen the one that's at Zach's museum either.
Oh, Peggy. Okay, yeah. Yeah, but you've
So
seen
you got a couple ahead of me now. I got to catch up.
David, when you saw Mandy, and we got pretty up close and personal, we weren't allowed to touch her or anything like that. But being somebody who likes the intuitive side of everything, did you pick anything up from her?
Not a whole lot on that one, really. I'm not creeped out by dolls. A lot of people are. And, at the same time, when you look at this doll, it's obviously very old, and Mandy is known as the cracked-faced doll because part of her face is cracked. So you can kind of see why, people would look at this doll and say, oh, there's something really creepy about it or disturbing or whatever. But, it's without having done an investigation or anything, obviously it's very hard to, base anything else on that other than just saying, oh, well, it's an old doll and I can understand people's reactions, but I wasn't getting anything particularly, it was really jumping out and saying, wow, this thing vibes like it's, haunted. So I don't know. But then on the other hand, the people at the museum told us that it had been fairly quiet around there recently. So who knows? Some of these things go in cycles.
Do you think that has to do with the overall energy of the museum? Because I believe when we were in there, the lady, one of the curators there was saying that they had a couple of psychic people in there previously, and they get a lot of people in there trying to bless the doll and say prayers around the doll and everything. Do you think that maybe things like that calm it down?
Oh, sure. I mean, you've got a lot of factors that affect something like that. When you're dealing with a haunted item, it can be residual energy. It can cycle around to some extent. It certainly can interact or be dependent on the people that are interacting with it. So, this is a doll, Mandy, that's at a museum. So there's a constant flow of people. And, it's just like with a paranormal investigation. You can have people come in who just sort of zap the energy or drain the energy, not necessarily consciously, but just something about their makeup causes the, phenomena to be very suppressed. And sometimes that lasts for a while. Other people can walk in and make things go off the charts. So it's really difficult to say. I know Ross and I have talked about trying to get back up there and actually do an investigation in the museum, and that would be really cool because there's not just Mandy, but there's some other objects in there that purportedly have some phenomena associated with them.
Very cool indeed. Let's move over to your book here, guys. Haunted Ships and Lighthouses. It's the latest in your haunted series. How fun, Ross, was this to do? Because I think out of all the paranormal subjects that we have covered on this show, the most difficult one for me to find a guest on, and I haven't been successful, I'll be honest with you, is finding someone who focuses on haunted ships and lighthouses. It just seems very, very difficult. Not a lot of people are doing it. So how special was it to work on this project?
Well, it was great to actually have the opportunity to work on this project. I know it was something that me and David had talked about for a while, because me and David do travel a lot, and we have these opportunities to visit these unique locations. And actually, some of these locations are a little more difficult to get to. So that might be a good reason why a lot of people don't have the experiences of doing some of these ships and lighthouses. So it's kind of cool to dig into their stories, and sometimes even some of these places, we've actually had the opportunity to spend the night. So to share our personal experiences is pretty awesome as well.
So when you go into a book like this, David, you guys are people who like to do things, if possible, on location to get that first feel of it. Whereas a lot of authors out there are calling people on the phone and doing their research on Google, see what they can find there. Google is a beautiful thing for any of us in the media. But how much more important is it to try, even though you maybe not be able to hit them all, but to try and get on location to get a feel for these types of stories?
I think going to the locations, it just gives you, I think it just alters the voice in how you express the information, if you know what I mean. So, something like this, in this particular book, we had a great time writing it. And at the same time, there were some frustrations, I can tell you, because, a lot of these lighthouses and ships, they have a long history, and they have a long history of paranormal phenomena. But what happens is, when you dig in and try to get to the root of some of these stories, it's often very, very difficult. And I tell you, there were some of them that were a little bit frustrating in that, you'd find this incredible story, and then you'd find absolutely nothing to back it up. And, it gets to a point where we have to chronicle what we're finding and what we're experiencing. And at the same time, we have to say, okay, well, this is an incredible story, but there's nothing, there's no news items that back this up. There's no this, there's no that. So, yeah, I mean, it was a great project all the way around, and I love the whole mystique of these types of things too. You've got this whole different energy when it comes to the nautical connected places like lighthouses and of course the ships, and there's a different atmosphere, if you will. So it was a great time.
Ross, when
I do want to add.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to add one thing too. When I was doing some research on the stories that I was going to add to the book, I did come across a story that ended up being debunked. And I literally, I got on the phone with David, and I was just like, what do we do? Here's a story where we can actually, publish that this, place has been debunked. It is not haunted. And I really felt, it might be a good idea to put it in the book just to show the credibility that we want to put out there in this field, that, sometimes when you do the research on these stories and you do find that they're not legit or they have been debunked in some way, that, we need to get those words out there to put an end to a lot of the folklore that some people like to spread, or the rumors that people like to spread. So I was really happy that, me and David both agreed that, this should be an important story in the book.
I think so too, because these are stories, David, that or Ross, I'll continue with you here, that have been going on for centuries. Whether it's shipwrecks where people are seeing the ghost ships sail into bays and harbors, or whether it's mermaids or anything along those lines, there's a lot of freaky tales in mankind's oldest form of transportation.
All right.
So how do you choose the stories? Because there are so many. How do you focus it down?
And that's a difficult process. It is, because there are a lot of ships and lighthouses, and I know David personally had to go through and weed through a lot of the stories and decide, okay, which ones do we want for our first book, and which ones are we going to save for maybe a later book. So it is a difficult choice, and of course, I think one of the things that me and David both agree on is, we want to get some more unique stories out there. A lot of these places, the Queen Mary, have been written about a number of times. So people are very familiar with, more of the famous, haunted ships and lighthouses. And we wanted to basically add some new material out there so people aren't, reading or hearing the same locations over and over again, because there are a lot of unique places out there that haven't gotten the media attention that some of the bigger places have gotten. And so, of course, you have to apply that to the book as well, so that you give your audience and readers some new material. And I think that me and David have really been focusing on that for these books in this series.
I think so. I totally think so. I want to hit you up, David, with let's start with ships here, if we could go there. In your opinion, what makes a ship haunted? Why would a ship be haunted?
Well, you have a couple different things. Now, people often use the term ghost ship, and it gets a little bit confusing to some people. So you have to distinguish between a ghost ship, which is the phantom of a ship. For instance, the Flying Dutchman is an example of that. And then you have a haunted ship, which would be something like the Queen Mary. So the Queen Mary, which Ross mentioned, a lot of people are familiar with. We do cover it in the book. We did cover, a couple of the big ones just because it's kind of expected, and we wanted to give our perspective on it. So the Queen Mary is covered in there. And the Queen Mary has a long and rich history. Of course, it served in World War II. Before that, it was an elegant cruise ship. And there are various tragedies that occurred on the ship during its history. So, you get tragic deaths and different strange things that happen that lead to potentially spirits being trapped on board, or perhaps it's residual energy. And either one of those things could, be the reason behind why a ship is haunted. Now, if you talk about a ghost ship...
Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry.
And I'd like to add too that sometimes people aren't aware of it, but the life at sea can be somebody's full-time life, and they don't know how to let that go. So when they pass, they still stay on these ships and continue to do the work that they enjoyed doing their whole life.
Could very well
absolutely.
be. Does the age of the ship matter? Does the age of the ship matter, Dave?
No. It's just like any other type of haunting, it doesn't necessarily matter. I mean, someone could have passed away last week and their death may result in a quote haunting of the area where they passed away. So, I think we're certainly more drawn to things that have a longer history, and, it's in a sense more compelling to go and investigate. Oh, here's a ship that was, has been around for this amount of time. Here's a lighthouse that was built in the 1800s. There's all kinds of things that happen, so it's clearly haunted. So, I think that you have to sort of set that aside and just look at the facts and determine, okay, what exactly did transpire here, and what is the evidence? What does it point to?
Ross, when you look at the age of ships, I mean, to anybody's eye, we wouldn't see, a military ship that looks newer, say, over the last 50, 60 years as being haunted. But if we saw a tall ship with the big sails on it, we'd look at that and say, oh, that's haunted. That is completely haunted. But as David is saying, it really doesn't matter because, and we even take what you said, if there was, say, a person on the crew who just loved being there and they passed away, no matter what the cause, why not go back to your happy place, correct?
Oh, yeah, definitely. It's just like, you see an old Victorian house, the older it looks, the creepier it looks. It's the same, that applies to ships. And even lighthouses. There's some lighthouses that just are a big block, with a light at the top, which you wouldn't even think. But yet there are some ghost stories that are tied to the property itself, or maybe a lighthouse that was previously there. So there is a lot of that, again, the psychological card will play that, oh, yeah, this looks like a creepy place. It's got to be haunted. But, as David was saying, it doesn't have to be old at all for a ghost to linger.
We got about 4 minutes here before we got to go to break at the bottom of the hour here. David, I'm wondering, is there a difference between a haunted ship and a ghost ship?
Yes. So a haunted ship is what I was describing with the Queen Mary as an example. A ghost ship, the perfect example of that is the Flying Dutchman. In fact, that's the oldest documented, quote, ghost ship. The Dutchman, we first find mentions of it in the 1700s. And there are documented sightings for years and years of the Flying Dutchman. It's become legendary at this point. And what people are describing is a strange ship at sea. Sometimes it's described as glowing. And, you know, the legend that arose around the Dutchman was that it was a cursed vessel, and that a lot of people thought it was an ill omen to see the Flying Dutchman. Of course, it's shown up in a lot of popular media over the years, and it's depicted as this, spectral ship that comes looming out of the darkness. And the ship itself is a ghost, a phantom, if you will. And, of course, all the crew on board are present, and they're ghosts, too.
Wow.
Well, I do want to add, too, there is the technical term as well in the nautical sense that a ghost ship could also be a ship that has lost its crew and is just floating aimlessly on the currents on its own. So people will call that a ghost ship as well.
Right. So the Mary Celeste is a good example of that, which the entire crew vanished and the ship kept going. It was a physical, tangible ship, but it was a ghost ship.
That's just creepy, man. That's just creepy because it makes you think of all the legends and the lore that happened. You know, I mean, the stories of World War II. I realize this is a little off topic, but one of the creepy stories of the ocean that reminds me of this World War II story where an American ship was torpedoed profusely and started to sink. It blew up in the sky, killed most of its crew, but the survivors that were splashed into the ocean, they were being eaten by tiger sharks while they were alive because there was so much blood in the water. And it kind of makes me wonder when I think about something like this, about how eerie and scary and vast the ocean really, really is when it comes to this. I mean, the stories that we don't know, let alone the ones we know. You know what I'm saying, Dave?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Freaky.
Just
freaky.
It's funny, too. I shouldn't say it's funny, but it's kind of interesting that there was, and I don't know if David, if you know about this, but there was a long time ago a diving team that actually dabbled a little bit in EVP research because they were noticing that when they went diving with recording equipment, they were actually picking up voices on the recorders. And so that just goes to show that, some of this paranormal activity can actually be occurring underwater as well.
Very interesting. Now you guys got to get scuba diving.
Yeah.
Now you got to go underwater scuba diving. Watch out for the megalodons. They're all over the place.
Could you imagine doing, I was going to say, could you imagine doing Pearl Harbor? Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
If anybody's ever done that. Yeah.
I've actually tried getting a paranormal team from Hawaii on, and I tried like 4 or 5 different teams in that area, and one of them said, no, we won't go near Pearl Harbor. It's taboo. But it would be interesting. That's for sure. Gentlemen, you hold on. We're going to hop out for a break here at the bottom of the hour. David Weatherly, Ross Allison, co-authors of Haunted Ships and Lighthouses. We'll get to your questions, more questions for them as we learn about the hauntings along the seas. We'll be back.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. It's going to be the best $5 a month you're going to spend. The SOR Space Travelers, only at spacedoutradio.com.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Welcome back to the halfway point of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, David Weatherly, Ross Allison are with us talking haunted ships and lighthouses, their latest book in the haunted series. Gentlemen, welcome back to the show. I love this topic, guys. At any time, and I know you guys don't get weirded out very often, but this just seems like one of those topics, Ross, that you just get the heebie-jeebies, much like you did on the stairway of our barn and start giving your loud screams there.
Oh, yes. You know, the one story when I was doing research for this book was actually the SS Kamloops. That's actually a pretty interesting story. It's actually... There's I don't want to say ghosts because, well, let me tell you the story first, and then you can kind of decide as to what you think it might be. But there's a ship that went down in the Great Lakes. Now, as you know, these are freshwater lakes, and they are very cold. So when the ship went down, unfortunately, one of the crew members went down with the ship, and he remains in the engine room. Now, due to the sterile environment and the cold, his body has actually been calcified. In this, what happens is the fats in the skin actually excrete, and they create this white shell around the body. So to this day, his body floats around in the engine room, and they call him Old Whitey.
Ew.
So when divers go down and explore the ship, they have this body literally floating around following them. And they say sometimes he'll just sneak up behind you, or he'll float up to you like he's trying to touch you. And it's just, it's creepy, you know, and I'm reading all these logs of, you know, from these divers that actually went down and they shook his hand and just like, oh my God, that is probably one of the most creepiest stories I came across in all the research for this book.
That is just eerie. David, do you have a story in this book that really stood out for you?
Not that creeped me out like that. You know, some pretty fascinating places that we got to cover in this book. And I think one of the ones that I found really fascinating was there was a lighthouse at the mouth of the Potomac River. And it's right where the Chesapeake Bay, the tip of Chesapeake Bay empties into the river. And it's called Point Lookout. Now, this lighthouse, it's interesting because it's very sort of unassuming. There's a 2-story block building with a light on top of it, and it's built in 1830, I want to say. The thing about this lighthouse, however, is that when the Civil War came, a camp was formed around this lighthouse. Initially, it was built as a hospital area to take care of wounded Union soldiers. However, things kind of quickly changed after the Battle of Gettysburg, because the Union needed somewhere to put all these captured Confederate soldiers. And what happened was they built a prison camp, essentially, around this lighthouse. It was called Camp Hoffman. And originally they intended to house 10,000 prisoners. Now, that's an awful lot of prisoners for an area, but after Gettysburg, they had an influx of about that many prisoners, and as the numbers kept increasing, they ended up having over 20,000 Confederate prisoners on this piece of property, in a space that at its best could have taken care of 10,000. So you can imagine the conditions that resulted from that. So what happened in this situation is there's this whole sort of crossroads of different hauntings that have happened at this site, because there are hauntings associated with the lighthouse itself from one of the previous keepers. There are stories about people seeing phantom Civil War soldiers marching around this area. There's people that have been up around the lighthouse and they've seen someone in a Civil War uniform carrying the rifle on their shoulder and walking patrol as if they're on guard duty. There are other people that have seen the ghost of Confederate soldiers around in this area. And it's just, it's kind of a spooky place. And it's just, if you can use the word cool for something like that, it's kind of that, because it has just so many different components to it. There's a whole different story about a family cemetery that was on the property, and somewhere along the way the stones were moved, and they believe that some of the bodies were still there. So there's the phantom of this woman that is seen searching in the area, and the popular story is that she's searching for her grave, which has gone missing. So, it really kind of brings in all of the elements that we commonly associate with these places. There's a certain energy of solitude about these lighthouses that is really can't be compared with anything else. And when you get to visit one that is, standing in place since the 1800s, and you imagine what it was like during the time period when the light was first there. And a lot of these are in remote locations. As Ross was saying, there's, these keepers lived a very solitary existence. And, it takes a certain kind of person to be able to do that job and to live there. So when you look at all these different elements and you think about the time period, it just evokes something pretty powerful sometimes.
Yeah, I don't know if I could do that even in today's technology, even if one of these lighthouses had the internet and cable so I could watch a good hockey or football game. I don't know if I could live in a brick cylinder being pounded at times by, Mother Nature's high winds and crashing waves. I just don't know if I could do it. That would scare the living hell out of me. But some people loved it.
And the funny thing is a lot of our stories are rooted to that, that isolation that just drove some of these lighthouse keepers mad. I can see that. It's interesting. Yeah.
With that, and you bring up a good point, I mean, the psychological effects that these people are having, how does that affect the hauntings then that are happening in these lighthouses, Ross?
Well, there's a couple stories that I put in the book that had to deal with that. One story actually It's Boone Island Lighthouse, where basically what had happened was this guy, he invites his wife, to come stay with him at this lighthouse, which is on an island in the middle, of nowhere. So to appease her and make her a little more settled because of the isolation, he brings a piano, and he thought this might be fun for her to learn how to play a piano. Well, they deliver the piano, and unfortunately, it only came with one sheet of music. So throughout this whole winter season, where they're completely stranded on this island, she decides that she's going to learn this one song, and she played it over and over and over again. To this actually, drove him crazy. And so one day he just grabbed an axe and went to go after that piano, and she stepped in the way and says, "No, please don't destroy my piano." And so he decided to hack away at her and then hack away at the piano. So now you've got this, ghost story, where people will actually hear, the piano music playing over and over again in the middle of the night.
Yeah, no.
And there's another story where, Sequin Lighthouse, where a young couple, just newlyweds, thought this would be the ultimate getaway for them, to really live on love and love alone. So, they go to this lighthouse, and of course, what happens is a really bad storm hits during the winter. And so he basically has to get, out to the lighthouse to light it. So he ties a rope to the house and ties the other end of the rope around his waist, and he goes out into the storm. Well, unfortunately, he loses his grip and he falls and dies. He, cracks his head open and breaks his neck and dies. And so his, new wife, realizes, the light hasn't been lit yet. So she, goes out and she's calling for him. And of course, no answer. So she, sees the rope, and so she starts pulling the rope, and all of a sudden, it's like really, really heavy. And she's screaming and yelling, "Luke, Luke, Luke," and still he's not responding. She finally drags his body up to the door of the house and, realizes it's too late. He's dead. And so for the next, month, she's alone on this island, and she, decides that she's going to make it her goal to, try and do the best that she can to light this, this lighthouse and keep it running. But she, is just so exhausted that the surrounding areas, they realize that the lighthouse isn't being lit anymore. So they go to investigate, and they find her dead in his arms. And so since then, people believe that her spirit now haunts the lighthouse. And they say whenever there's trouble with lighting the lights or, any equipment issues, she always comes in and saves the day. So there's just, interesting stories like that, that pertain to this isolation.
Yeah, that's so not a life for me. So not a life for me. That's just eerie.
I couldn't do it.
No. David, could you do it?
Oh, I don't think so.
No.
No, it's it's a fascinating thing to look at, with some of these stories and everything, and it's such a component of a lot of the hauntings and so forth. And like I said earlier, it takes a very special kind of person, I think, to decide to live like that. It's essentially, in a sense, it's the life of a hermit. Although, a lot of these stories with the lighthouses, these people had families, and, often some of the tragedies and the hauntings had to do with their families that were there at the lighthouse with them.
Good buddy of mine, Mike, he was actually asked to do security up at a private shut down mill, but all the equipment was there, so they still had to have security there. And it was, oh goodness, it's 1,000 miles north of where I am, or almost 1,000 miles north. I mean, long ways away. And like we're talking right near the Alaskan border. Anyways, long story short, he was out there in isolation for 2-3 weeks at a time. And he's a type of guy who would be like, I'm tired of people. I can live on my own. I'll live off the grid type of thing. And he said, you get 2-3 weeks into that, and it is terrible because it's just you and the wildlife. You got to keep the bears away, the wolves away, and the Sasquatch away. Literally, there was Sasquatch there. I actually have to send you a copy of a print he sent me of a 3-toed creature.
Oh, wow. Yeah, send it to me.
Yeah, it's kind of weird. I'll get that to you, but it does go to show that that this is still happening. I know up in Alaska and in the northern regions of Canada, where they have these mines that are shut down for the winter, or they have these locations that are used for trader spots and trading posts, and still it does happen that you put these people out there for 4, 6, 8, 10 months out of the year. There's some wicked stories in those areas of high strangeness, and you have to wonder, like Ross said, about the psychology of it all. How much of it is just the mind making it up, and how much of it is actual truth? I mean, that's just
it kind of it reminds me of The Shining. That isolation of being up in that hotel. And, of course, he starts to go mad, and you kind of wonder, is it the ghosts, or is it just, a figment of his imagination that drives him to the point where he actually, tries to kill his family? So that's, kind of the same thing.
But, of course, that comes down, it's very individual because, some people, I think, have the mental constitution or makeup to be able to tolerate something like that, and they're fine, whereas other people, may think that they can do it, but the reality of experiencing it is a completely different thing. As your friend found out, Dave, when he was, suddenly isolated for a couple of weeks, the idea may appeal to some to get away from, technology and business and all the noise and everything, but actually experiencing it is something altogether different.
I do want to get into the subject of the legends of the water, because I think, a lot of these different terms when it comes to the seagoing folk comes around superstitions. Whether it's mermaids, the Kraken, sperm whales taking down the original real story of Moby Dick. There's a lot of legends and lore that happen on the water. I mean, more recently, you think of the Gordon Lightfoot song about the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald and the Witch of November coming early. How much in your research, David, as we got about 4.5 minutes to go here before the break, and we can continue it on after, but how much of the superstition actually played a part in this book?
Oh, I think it runs all through it, because a lot of the individual stories, talk about things that could potentially explain the hauntings, because we're dealing with, again, the lore of the sea. And, there's all these different components, that isolation, that, that mysterious ocean that's there, that man has never really conquered, so to speak. And, I mean, we know more about the moon than we know about the depths of the ocean. So, it's a fascinating perspective to look at it from that direction. And of course, years and years, hundreds of years of nautical traditions and superstitions that play into this, whether it's a ship or a lighthouse or, just standing on the beach. And a lot of these things mix into the stories quite well. There's a haunting at the Currituck Beach Lighthouse in North Carolina. And one of the hauntings there is a little girl, the daughter of the first lighthouse keeper. Now, this girl was playing on the beach and she disappeared. So there's a lot of folklore that sort of grew up around that, because no one has ever been able to explain what happened to her. This was an isolated area. There's speculation that it was some kind of rogue wave that came in and took her, although she was known for being very cautious and not getting too close to the water. So, then when you start reading some of the stories, you find that back in the days when this happened, there was speculation that perhaps a spirit had gotten her, or perhaps something had come out of the ocean and taken her. So, these are all things that play into that nautical lore that you're talking about. And, this is an area rich in ghost stories because we're talking about the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and that's the graveyard of the Atlantic. And there are, so many shipwrecks in this region, and so many sightings of phantom ships and the ghost of sailors and pirates and, merchant marines and everything else you can think of along there. So, here we get this story, this strange disappearance of this girl, and all these various bits of folklore to explain why she disappeared, and no one ever was ever able to answer the question. But her spirit purportedly still haunts the lighthouse, and in fact, the room where she slept became cursed because of her mysterious death.
Intriguing.
And if I can add to that,
ahead.
I was going to say, Seabury men were very superstitious. In fact, if anything bad happened on a ship, the ship was indeed cursed. In fact, one of the stories that I added to the book was the Sea King, and it's a ship that actually was in San Francisco when the San Francisco earthquake hit, the big one. And what had happened is they were actually getting ready to head to Seattle to get some lumber. And so since the ship didn't take on any damage during the earthquake, they basically filled the ballast with wreckage from the San Francisco earthquake. And as the ship was sailing back up to Seattle, the crew were hearing all kinds of strange noises, scratching and moaning and crying and these faint screams throughout the night that these guys didn't get very much sleep. So by the time they got to Seattle, they were just like ready to get off the ship. And some of these guys, would live on these ships. But these guys wanted off the ship right away. And as they started unloading the ballast, they started to find bodies from the people that were killed in the earthquake. And so since then, they felt that this ship was cursed. And since that rumor started up, a lot of people did not want to work on these ships. And this was, a thing for a lot of these ships. Anytime something bad happened on these ships, none of the crew would want to be there.
Well, you can't blame them. You can't blame them, Ross. And gentlemen, we're going to hold it right there because we're going to go to our break here at the top of the hour here on Spaced Out Radio. We got David Weatherly. We have Ross Allison for one more half hour on the show tonight. Haunted ships and lighthouses. What a great topic tonight. I'm so looking forward to more of this superstition. We'll be back with more Spaced Out Radio right after this.
Come hang out with Spaced Out Radio, where we own the night. This is Carl. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and during the show, use the hashtag Spaced Out Radio to chat with us live. On Instagram, at Dave Scott SOR. On Facebook, give our page a like, Spaced Out Radio Show. SOR archives are free on YouTube at Spaced Out Radio. Come join us, or I will come join you. See you at your window.
At spacedoutradio.com, we have a little bit of everything for you to stay up late. So while you're there, check out our SOR Newswire, where our team brings you stories of the weird and strange to the WTF from around the globe. News on Bigfoot, UFOs, paranormal, Darwinian-type crime tales. It's the stories that the mainstream media usually won't touch. Well, we got them all on the SOR Newswire, only at spacedoutradio.com.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7 with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
On the first Tuesday of every month, I encourage you to come along for a journey with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You. Together, we will take a look at how to access the highest expression of yourself and change your life. Consciousness, ET contact, health, and wellness, we can talk about it all. So come along for a spiritual ride with me, Geraldine Orozco, on The Spiritual You, only on Spaced Out Radio.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
We are getting ready to relaunch the SOR Space Travelers Club at spacedoutradio.com. For $5 a month, you can join us for a plethora of features found nowhere else. Hang out in a private chat room during the show and after party. You can check out some exclusive content and a store specifically for you, as well as a private listener forum where you can post your thoughts, stories, and pictures. The SOR Space Travelers Club, coming soon to spacedoutradio.com.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Get your horns up with me on Spaced Out Radio. This is Ron Bumblefoot Thal. Come tune in to SOR where you can hear me rock out with Little Brother is Watching, the official theme song of Spaced Out Radio. And then come on over to bumblefoot.com where you can find out about my tour schedule, my music, and everything else. Bumblefoot.com keeps you up to date on what I'm doing and the best way to stay in touch with my music and music camps. Sign up for my newsletter at bumblefoot.com and remember, Little Brother is Watching.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today. The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Great to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program, Pat Fitzhugh will join us. We're going to talk about the Bell Witch. Great paranormal story. We get going at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. Hi to everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Remember, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. I knew I'd butcher it. Spectrophotofluorometrically. Nobody knows what it means, but Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot. We are in preparations for the new Spaced Out Radio store in a short time from now, and Captain Shirk has the SOR Newswire up to date as well. For the final time tonight, we introduce Ross Allison, David Weatherly, their books on their Haunted series. Their latest one is called Haunted Ships and Lighthouses. Weird, freaky stories here, ladies and gentlemen. And if you haven't picked up one of these books yet, or the series of them, you are missing out. If you love great paranormal books, highly suggest you do. They are on Amazon. Order them up today. Great Christmas presents as well. Ross, David, welcome back to the show. Your final appearance here of 2018. And I got to say, gentlemen, you guys have been on quite a bit this year. And from all of our fans to you guys, Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, and thank you so much for all the entertainment and stories you have brought us through 2018.
Well, thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Oh,
and can I say one thing?
Yeah.
I feel so sorry for you to have to say those passwords.
Me too. Me too. The Friday night password used to be the horrific one. But Bill lives in Ontario, which is a 3-hour difference. So he started making Thursdays more difficult because it's Friday for him now. So when I protested about it, I actually lost my appeal because technically his time zone is correct comparatively to mine. So I got to pay the price on Thursdays and Fridays now. It's terrible. Cardwell.
No. Oh my God.
Cardwell. Yeah. Well, he's a Toronto Maple Leafs fan.
Right? Sound it out.
Yeah. Well, he's a Toronto Maple Leafs fan, and they haven't won a Stanley Cup since 1967, and his lawn chair is getting a little rusty there, waiting for the parade to happen. So we'll just leave it at that. So, see, I can talk hockey with you guys now because, well, of course, the Golden Knights in Vegas, where you are, David, and now in a couple of years, you're going to get an NHL team, Ross. So, I mean, I can talk about this with you guys now. We can now have hockey talk in our paranormal talk. I'm so excited. But, hey, we'll get you in on the games, guys. We'll get you in on the games. They're pretty good.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Yeah, as both of them roll their eyes and say, "Shut up, Dave. Get back to the damn book." Right before the break, we were talking here. Yeah. Let's get to the book. Damn it, Haunted Ships and Lighthouses. Right before the break, we were talking about the superstitions and the lore that a lot of sailors have. And Ross, you gave an amazing example of cursed ships. What about cursed lighthouses? Does that work the same way with the nautical legends and lore, Ross?
Well, definitely. I believe so. Now, I know in my research so far, I hadn't come across a story of a cursed lighthouse. What about you, David? Did you have one?
Not a lighthouse itself that was cursed, although the one I referred to last hour, the Currituck Lighthouse. Now, there is a cursed room there, and this relates to the daughter of the first keeper, who I had mentioned mysteriously disappeared while she was outside playing. And the legend is that in the aftermath of her strange disappearance, the bedroom that she used became cursed. And there are stories about people sleeping in that bedroom and becoming very ill. There's even a legend that one person died from sleeping in that room. And the general idea rose up that, it's cursed because of this tragic death. So that would be just the room itself. But again, lighthouses, we have this unique combination where we're dealing with the superstitions and the lore of the sea mixed in with something that is based on land, yet it's very nautical by nature and it's very isolated. So, it becomes a whole different kind of fascinating topic to start delving into. And then, of course, there's so much history that plays into these things. And sometimes the anecdotes, while not necessarily paranormal, are just, really something to read. The Currituck Lighthouse, for instance, the keepers there also ran the Kitty Hawk post office. And it turned out, when I was doing research, I found out that the keepers of the lighthouse, when they were running the Currituck the Kitty Hawk post office, they received a letter of inquiry from Ohio. And it was from a gentleman whose last name was Wright, wanting to know about the conditions at Kitty Hawk and so on and so forth. And as it unfolded, the lighthouse keepers and the Wright brothers started a correspondence. And when the Wright brothers showed up in North Carolina, they assembled their plane in the front yard of the lighthouse keeper's home. So, it's just kind of cool when you read some of this stuff and you realize that there's such a strong thread of history that intermingles with these places, and I think it adds a whole different level to the richness and the history and sometimes the potential hauntings.
How much, David, did the... go ahead, Russ.
Sorry. Well, I kind of wanted to go a little bit more into, the superstitions as well, because I found that very fascinating when I started to do the research for that part of the book, was just these interesting superstitions that these, seafaring men had carried. The fact that, women weren't allowed on the ships because they felt that they were too much of a distraction for the crew. And so, of course, this would cause problems for the sailing. And then, of course, but they felt that a naked woman, would be great for appeasing the gods. And so that's why you always found at the front of the ship, the bare-chested woman to guide the ship, to appease the gods. So you have a little bit of that. And then, of course, they always referred to ships as, a female entity because they felt safe in the mother's arms or in a woman's bosom. So you have those interesting things. But then, of course, they also believe that, too, that before the ship set sail, that you always had to have first blood. And so, If there was no accidents reported or blood spilt before the ship had set sail, the captain would actually encourage a fist fight, a boxing match on the ship, just to have first blood, because it's guaranteed them as, a good journey, a safe journey. So there's all kinds of interesting, superstitions when it comes to, being at sea. So that alone was pretty interesting.
The United States Navy plays an important part in this book as well. You mentioned, the USS Lexington, the USS Constellation, the North Carolina, the Yorktown. Why do you think, David, that it is important to focus so much on former military ships?
Well, a lot of these ships are haunted, especially the ones that saw service. During wartime, there are a lot of these vessels from World War II that, tragically men lost their lives on during the war. And as Ross was saying earlier, sometimes these people had, this is what they did. This was their life. And perhaps that alone has caused them to remain on board. So you find some pretty fascinating stories on a lot of these ships, accounts of people seeing sailors in period uniforms and, seeing people going through the motions as they would have during the time the ship was in service and so forth. And, I think that sometimes that's residual energy. Sometimes I believe it's a spirit that is just still going through the motions, because that's what their tragic death was. That's where it happened and how it happened, and they're just kind of stuck.
Considering a lot of these ships have seen action in military battlegrounds, have people reported hearing maybe the cannons or the guns shooting at times, or people running down the galleys and the alleyways on the ship, in order to try and get to different battle stations? What have they been like?
Well, certainly the sounds of battle, so to speak, have been heard. I'm trying to remember if I ran across an account of the guns going off, because that's a very loud and dramatic sound, and Ross can pipe in on that also. But, a lot of accounts of hearing or sometimes seeing the phantoms of men running through the corridors, or running, the sound of someone running down the steps, and, various other sounds, sometimes the engine room sounds and so forth. But Ross, do you recall any where people have heard the battleship?
Well, I'd have to say one of the stories that does stick out in my mind is the Queen Mary, when...
oh, sure.
What was it? She got rammed, or was it when she got rammed when she was serving?
Yeah.
During the time in the military, she was used as a military ship. She was rammed, I believe, if I remember correctly.
Right.
And
there was a
lot of times there was a collision, and a lot of times people have heard that rehashing itself over and over again. When you're down in the lower parts of the ship, you'll hear that wreck, that the tearing of metal happening every so often.
Very interesting.
People have heard that sound down there. And the Queen Mary is, a fascinating topic anyway. It's an amazing ship. I've been on it many times. I know Ross has too. And it's also a focal point of a lot of attention. People call it one of the most haunted locations in the world and so forth. But again, it's one of those locations where we have to sort out a lot of the folklore and the various stories that have grown up over the years that don't seem to have any historic foundation, and sort of peel those away from the valid accounts that we do know about. We know people died during that collision in World War II, and we know there have been some other deaths on board the ship. So there's plenty of material there to explain why it would be haunted.
Ross,
was there to touch base a little bit real quick on what David had said earlier, when it comes to residual hauntings, you have to understand that these men who, served in the military, their lives were a schedule. They had to be up at a certain time. They had to go through all these procedures day after day after day. And so when you're doing that as a normal basis, that easily can, generate some sort of residual energy. So that's why in some of these ships, you'll see, a sailor walking, right past you, and he doesn't even look at you like you exist, because that very well could be, residual energy of that sailor that had to walk up and down that corridor, every day at a certain time.
Well, Megan brings up a very good point in the chat room. Megan is a retired United States Marine. Thank you for your service, Megan. And she's part of Forest Moon Paranormal as well in Washington State, Eric Cooper's team. And she says many of these ghost naval crew were never relieved from their posts, so technically they're still on duty. Would you agree with that point, Ross?
I do. Yeah, definitely. They signed up to serve our country and to protect us. And so, of course, there's a lot of pride in that as well. And so if they do know that they have passed, maybe they choose to still serve and protect us.
David, I got a question for you in regards to the lighthouses and shipwrecks. All right. You guys did a lot on the East Coast because that's where a lot of the history is, the true history of the United States. But you also looked into some cases on the Great Lakes as well. Now, we have ocean, we have fresh water. Was there a difference in any type of residual or current hauntings between the two, considering the differences in water?
At a basic level, no, not really, because the Great Lakes are very unique, and, at the same time, they still have that sort of mystique of the water. And, there's a lot of tragic deaths. There's a lot of shipwrecks that have happened in the Great Lakes. And, there's a lot of strange conditions that come up on the Great Lakes, storms that come out of nowhere. And you referred earlier to Gordon Lightfoot's, song about the Edmund Fitzgerald and the Witch of November. So there's a lot of fascinating lore that comes up around the Great Lakes and some of the mysterious wrecks and disappearances that have happened there. So I think it's slightly different, but it's still a very similar reflection on that same mystique.
Ross, would you say there's a difference?
No, I agree with David. I was surprised when I started working on that part of the book, covering the hauntings on the Great Lakes, just the amount of tragedies that they had on a lake setting rather than an ocean setting. It was just kind of surprising, the great storms that they had to face. And, and he's right, there were tons of shipwrecks and the tragedies, just like the SS, Kamloops that I talked about with, old Whitey haunting down in the engine room. That's, that happened in the Great Lakes. So, so for me, it was just that kind of, that eye-opening experience, like, wow, these ships experience, just the same conditions that they would if they were on the oceans.
Gentlemen, we only have about 6 minutes with you. And now that 2018 is kind of coming to a close and we look towards 2019, 2018 has been called the year of the UFO, with everything that kind of happened with the New York Times article a year ago. And I know, David, you delve more into UFOs than Ross does, but going into 2019, what can we expect in the paranormal? Is it going to be much the same of what it's been the last few years, or are we going to see some maybe potential breakthroughs coming?
Wow, I'm going to give a hopeful yes. I think it's going to be an interesting year. There's the last few years have been a lot of there's been a big influx of a lot of new people in the field and potentially new approaches, and I just hope that we continue on a more serious track with research and investigation. And, I'm sure there will continue to be some new advances in technology. I'm aware of some of those already that are coming down the pike. So we'll see what happens, but I think so, yes.
How about you, Ross? What are you looking forward to in 2019?
No, like David said, I'm looking for more of that seriousness, people really buckling up and being more, serious about the investigations. I get a little tired of the thrill seekers muddying up the water. But I'd like to see a little more, equipment coming out as well. I know my team's working on a few interesting pieces as well. So I expect next year to be a little more productive, and I guess hopefully some more travels to some more amazing places, more evidence. That would be kind of cool.
What do you guys have on your travel schedules for 2019, Dave? Where are you heading? You're all over the place, I know. And
my gosh,
give us some hints. Give us some hints.
Let's see. There's a big event in May in Pennsylvania called the Bigfoot Camping Adventures. Exactly what it sounds. It focuses on cryptozoology. And that is being hosted by SOS member Eric Altman. That's going to be a really cool event. I've got some overseas travel planned for 2019. A couple of there's a project that I'm just anxious to talk about. It's something that Spinks and I worked on this past fall, and we've been very hush-hush about it. But knock on wood, you're going to see that revealed in early 2019, and that's just something that's pretty exciting. And man, I don't know. I've got some new books coming out, and just so much going on. I was looking at my calendar this morning, thinking, "Oh man, this is really filling up," and it's a good thing. So, of course, as we were discussing earlier, Ross and I will be back up in Canada in April. We're really looking forward to that. So, yeah, it's going to be a great year.
Ross, we got about 2 minutes, and I need you to fill me in. Robin, in our chat room yesterday, asked a question about the doppelganger experience that you had. And I wanted to make that the final question that we asked you of this year, because it is such an incredible, freaky story.
It's not a 2-minute story.
Well, it's not a 2-minute story, unfortunately. And in fact, unfortunately, that's more of a David story, because he actually saw it. We were doing an investigation together, and he actually claims to have saw my doppelganger coming after him while I was downstairs. So that's pretty interesting. That place really creeped me out, definitely. And
What's
that's
it like
just the quick version.
What's it like seeing Ross's doppelganger, Dave? What's going through your mind at that point?
and Ross screamed. I got to get that in as we're
Good.
closing.
Tony.
I mean, it was a great, really girly scream, and we were very.
No,
happy
that was
with
a caveman scream. Come on.
No, it was. I tell you, Dave, we'd be happy to come on and talk about that one night, and we could even pull Spinks in, because it was a crazy investigation. There was so much that happened there that night, and the location is the Belair House in Ohio, which I've investigated many times. So as Dave Spinks, it was Ross's first experience out there. And it was one of those nights where things just kind of went off the hook. They really did. And everybody had different experiences in there that were just a lot of stuff you can't explain. But the short version is, yes, I saw Ross's doppelganger running out of the room that he had been sleeping in towards me. I was in the hallway. And it was very startling, because I saw it out of my peripheral vision. I saw someone running towards me. As I turned to look at it, I saw it was him.
And you yelled.
And it was just gone. Yeah, I yelled out. I was like, and I won't repeat on air what I yelled out. But, these guys were coming up the hall, up the stairs in the hallway behind me. And, immediately after that, Dave Spinks had a strange experience where he saw something. But there were a lot of other weird things going on there that night. Something was very consciously trying to manipulate us.
Interesting. Yeah. David Weatherly, Ross Allison, thank you so much for a fantastic 2018 on Spaced Out Radio. Now, if we go by the every 2 months, I guess we'll be talking to you guys in February.
Sounds good, man.
Good to me.
Talk to you guys in 2019. Haunted Ships and Lighthouses. Go on Amazon right now and get it, along with the rest of the Haunted series. We'll be back with the news and Ola Phillips right after this.
You're listening to Spaced Out Radio Live with Dave Scott on the Deep Talk Radio Network.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for a night on the town? The Moose Vancouver is the bar that never stops rocking until 2 a.m. every night. The Moose has great food with everything on the menu from $6.95 to $8.95. Fantastic, vibrant staff and rock and roll that will bring you back to when the music was real, the hair was long, and the guitars were rocking. Get your party on at the Moose Vancouver, the official party bar of Spaced Out Radio. Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want, when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
Coming soon to our website, spacedoutradio.com, is the SOR Space Travelers Club. For just $5 a month, you can get into a private area on our site where you can hang with other listeners in our chat room, post in our forum, and check out a bunch of exclusive content and store that won't be found anywhere else, including a nightly after-show party with Dave. At spacedoutradio.com.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Did you know Spaced Out Radio runs 7 days a week? Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm here to take you on a paranormal journey each Saturday and Sunday night. Why change the station when you have it all right here? Together, we'll hang out and share some strange and scary stories. And don't forget, we have Psychic Sundays as well, so come tune in Spaced Out Weekend. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com, where we own the night.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hi there, this is Geraldine Orozco from San Francisco's Bay Area Meditation. I invite you to join me the first Tuesday of every month with Dave Scott for Spaced Out Radio's The Spiritual You. In this fast-paced world we live in, it's time for you to take some time for you. We'll cover every possible subject from powerful meditation to healing techniques to your own intuition and spirituality. So come join us for The Spiritual You.
Hello, this is your guitar man, Ron Bumblefoot Thal, and I have to tell you, I love the response I get for Little Brother is Watching from Spaced Out Radio fans. It's amazing how music can inspire and make people think deeper about what's going on in the supernatural world. You can head over to my website, bumblefoot.com, to check out my music, my guitar workshops, my touring, even check out some of the hot sauces that I'm working on. And make sure you keep on listening, because with Spaced Out Radio, you know Little Brother is watching.
We've rounded third. We are heading for home tonight on Spaced Out Radio. And with that, we get to the SOR Newswire with the man, the myth, the Team Stump legend himself, Mr. Olaf Phillips. The news is always changing. That's why we bring in Olaf Phillips from Paranoia Magazine, which can be found at paranoiamagazine.com, as we take on the SOR Newswire, a look into the weird, the wacky, the WTF of what is happening around the world. Mr. Olaf Phillips, how you doing, brother?
Greetings and salutations.
Good to have you with us, my friend. You know, we just had David Weatherly and Ross Allison on talking about their latest book, Haunted Ships and Lighthouses. I mean, these guys, the one thing I like about these guys is they're trying to trend away from what is statistically the norm in the paranormal. I think we need more of that in this field. You know what I'm saying? It's not just about Gettysburg. It's not just about Waverly Hills. It's about finding these strange occurrences in weird, strange places. And that's what I love about them.
Oh, yeah. I mean, you got to, there are a lot of haunted places. A guy once told me that pretty much every mine that has ever been dug is probably haunted. And it's like we don't, we focus on the same 10 places. And, every Halloween I get all excited and I'm going to see some haunted stuff. And it's like, okay, I've seen Waverly Hills, okay, I've seen the Wally House. I've been to the Wally House. It's good that we're moving on and moving up,
Well, I think so. And I think it's important for the field because, in my opinion, they're being trendsetters and not trend followers. And that's what this field needs more of.
Yeah, we need to push the envelope. We need to go find other haunted stuff. I mean, they're haunted airplanes. I was actually shocked. I was watching Ghost Adventures. I'm a big fan. And they went to March Air Force Base and they were checking out a haunted C-141. I was a little taken aback that they couldn't seem to figure out that it's a star lifter, but it was cool that they were actually checking out a haunted airplane. I was impressed with that. And it's like we got to get away from the same 10 things over and over and over.
I would totally agree with you. And by the way, apparently, word is Zach Bagans lost his father today. His father passed away.
Terrible.
So we want to wish heavy condolences from all of us at Spaced Out Radio to Zach Bagans and his family. And, it's always tough, especially at this time of year, so close to Christmas, too. So, Godspeed to their family right there. But anyways, go ahead.
And condolences from Paranoia, the Paranoia family.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get to the news. What do you got weird, wacky in Florida for us, man?
A Florida man steals cart full of items, tries selling them in the store parking lot, police say. And apparently included oil, a bucket, and some other stuff. A Florida man is accused of stealing a shopping cart full of items from a Walmart and trying to sell them in the store's parking lot, according to police. The Melbourne Police Department arrested 37-year-old Gregory Sheets Saturday after officers said surveillance video from the Walmart showed him filling the cart with various items and taking them outside the store without paying for them. Police said customers noticed Sheets trying to sell the items in the parking lot and notify the loss prevention officer. The loss prevention officer went outside and told Sheets to bring the shopping cart back, prompting Sheets to leave the property altogether with the cart and the stolen items, according to the arrest report. So not only did he steal the stuff, he tried to sell it in the parking lot of the store he stole it from.
How high do you have to be? How much crack cocaine do you have to smoke in order to rip off Walmart and go like 30 feet out their door into the parking lot to try and sell those said items?
You'd have to be pretty damn high.
I mean that's just ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. That only in Florida. Only in Florida does that happen.
Florida.
You know what? I love these nightly Florida stories, man. I love them.
They're fun. Okay. So our next one, now this is a spoiler alert, so if there are children in the room, please make them leave. I'm telling you ahead of time, and I'm going to count to 3. 1, 2, 3. Are you done sneezing?
I am. I actually was able to hold it back.
Okay. Santa horrifies parents in England by yelling, "Get the F out" at event. Ho, 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 no. The organizers of a Christmas event that took place this past Sunday at St. Ives, England, are apologizing for the behavior of the Santa Claus they hired. It seems this Santa got a little naughty with his language while trying to do a nice thing, evacuate people from what he thought was a burning building. At some point during the Father Christmas Grotto event, smoke machines from a separate event being held 1 floor below caused the fire alarm to go off. The man hired to be Santa reportedly immediately ripped off his hat, his beard, and told the crowd of around 50 people to get the F out, according to the Cambridge Live. Although Claus's directive was a sensible thing to do when there is a fire, the coarse language left some parents fuming. People were in the process of vacating the building, and in came angry Santa swearing using the most vile language, ripping off his hat and beard with steam literally coming out of his ears. Not too sure why he was so cross, one parent told The Sun. He was shouting at people to leave, which is exactly what we were doing. Very strange behavior. One parent, Sharon Bevister, came to Santa's defense. Surely evacuating the children was his main priority, she told the paper. Yes, it was probably the smoke machine, but imagine if it wasn't. The organizers of festival event St. Ives, or Fest, used that line in their own apology. Late Sunday, During a family rave event, not a fest event, in the Corn Exchange, I love these places. I lived in England. They're all over. St. Ives, the fire alarms were evacuated by smoke in the Charter Hall. Santa was upstairs in his grotto, an event organized by the festival events St. Ives, and immediately assisted in the evacuation of the building. Fest wished to apologize for any offense or distress caused to parents and children by the attempts to ensure all visitors and staff exited the building and were safe.
Well, I mean, he tried to do something good, it sounds like. He tried to be, safety Santa. I don't know if I'm...
He did. He was definitely safety Santa.
I don't know if I'm more offended by this story or the school teacher in the U.S. who went into the kindergarten or grade 1 class saying that Santa Claus isn't real, the substitute teacher, and started breaking all of these kids' hearts. I don't know what's more mean.
Well, that's more mean, obviously. This guy, he just got a little scared and jacked up on endorphins, and definitely, ripping his beard off and swearing and using the F-bomb was probably not very fun for the kids, but his heart was in the right place. It's just, it's just a holiday story.
I hear it. Well, it's good that Santa's on the ball. Good, even if it was a false alarm, at least Santa's on the ball. That's all that matters. Right. Let's get to the next one, my friend.
KFC creates fried chicken scented fire log.
Yeah, this is dangerous for me. Way dangerous for me.
Kentucky Fried Chicken is getting into the holiday spirit with an unusual product, a fire log designed to smell like fried chicken. The KFC 11 Herbs and Spices fire log, created in partnership with EnviroLog, is designed to emulate the smell of the fast food chain Colonel's Secret Recipe chicken. For more than 1 million years, mankind has been attempting to improve upon the simple fire, KFC said on its website. We tried burning different things like sticks or leaves or various incriminating documents. We've tried making fires last longer. We've even figured out how to turn them into different colors. All of that experimentation, all that innovation has culminated in this event, the KFC 11 Herbs and Spices fire log, the chain said. The log, which is available for $18.99 while supplies last, comes with the important disclaimer: don't put face directly into fire in an attempt to smell fried chicken.
Yeah, that's my problem, because I'm literally burning my wood stove every day. If I end up getting some of those, I know I'm going to try and eat them. I know me. I know myself around at KFC. I'm dangerous.
That's not going to taste good, man.
I understand that, but it's the herbs and spices, man. You're going to get that flavor in the air, and you're going to be like, I'm hungry, and my town doesn't have a KFC. What am I going to have to do? I'm going to have to eat that log.
You're going to have to drive.
Yeah. I got to drive an hour north.
You're going to have to take that fire log, and you're going to have to put it in the car with you, not lit, and you're going to have to smell it while you drive for an hour. I drive 3 minutes. I got 2 KFCs within 3 minutes.
Yeah, you're lucky. You're lucky. I'm actually, it's about 45 minutes away if you do about 10 over the speed limit. Don't tell the police.
I like how you calculate
to get to the closest KFC and McDonald's. If I go south, it's 2.5 hours to get to the closest Taco Bell.
That's a little desperate that you've calculated it out.
Hey, nothing I can do. Nothing I can do.
All right.
It's terrible. It's terrible. But I know for a fact, man, I will never own one of those KFC logs because I will try and eat it. As long as I live in the remote, barren, destitute place that I do, those are dangerous for me.
I have to buy you one. I need to buy you one.
No.
Yeah. Yes. This just in, SOR headquarters burned down.
Yeah.
While burning KFC logs.
Yeah. Dave Scott has burning hands in hospital, not able to do the show because of burning hands from eating the KFC charcoal. Yeah, I could
Gifted
see
to
that
him
right
by
now.
paranoia.
Yeah, absolutely. I could see that happening. We got time for one more, my friend.
Russia's state-of-the-art robot exposed as man in costume. The Russia 24 news channel broadcast footage of what it presented as Boris, the dancing, singing robot, at a technology forum for school pupils. But viewers and other journalists spotted some human-like movements and other discrepancies and discovered Boris was in fact a human wearing a robot costume sold by a Russian company. As the machine danced on stage, a presenter had said, "At the forum, there's an opportunity to see state-of-the-art robots. Boris, the robot, has already learned to dance and not badly at that." In the report, the robot also appeared to speak in a metallic voice as lights flashed on its face in different colors, saying, "I'm good at math, but now I want to study art and musical composition." But the images shared online from backstage at the event clearly show a human inside the robot outfit, though a gap between a bodysuit and a headpiece. Bloggers found the Robot Show website where the suit, identical to the one in the news clip, can be purchased. After the clip went viral, Russia 24 broadcast an interview with the journalist who made the original report. "I was absolutely sure everyone would realize it was a costume, like Santa Claus, that this was a project created for children," he said. So state-of-the-art robot, actually human in a suit.
We got one back on the AI. We totally got one back on AI. We win. We win.
Damn you, Skynet. Damn you, Skynet.
Exactly. There's one in the record books for mankind right there.
You
got to be proud of that. Let's get to the thought of the Dave. Thought of the Dave happens every night at this time, where we ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages, then read your responses on the air because we love the audience participation around here. So today's Thought of the Dave is as followed. What is the most incredible paranormal experience you have had in 2018? We got some good ones today, Olaf. Very, very good ones. I'm excited about this. Let's get to it. John, we're going to kick things off with you. He says, on more than one occasion, I have awoken to the feeling of someone sitting on the bed beside me, and no one is there. My mom passed from cancer in 2016. I have to wonder if it is her. Let's hope. Let's hope.
I hope so.
Chris George Zuger. This is a funny one. Realizing Tom DeLonge was cyber-stalking me for crap-talking him for so long and having to block him on Facebook. That's funny.
That's weird.
Jade. Nothing too wild and crazy, but a gentle whisper from a woman in my ear when I was having trouble with locking the office door in the art gallery in a very haunted building. Other way, dear, it said. It was comforting to know the spirits in the building accept me for being there. Mr. Skeptical here, Chris. Not a single one to report here, or everyone. Geez, that's just being mean. Dorothy says, I have had so many throughout my life, but for recently, at night while watching TV, 2 times I saw a darker than dark figure walk past my front window. Each time within 3 days, a very close male friend, actually 2 ex-husbands, died. It was just weird. Is that paranormal? I don't know. Maybe it's not a good idea to be married to Dorothy.
Yeah.
Scary.
Scary.
No offense, Dorothy, but you scared the crap out of me. I'm not proposing. Matthew. More white mists, smoky-type wisps I've seen. Vevster. An argument I had with my guardian spirits about marriage. Sandra. Okay. During a ghost box session, I thought I heard my name. And then that night, I got jumped by some maniacal-looking thing. and he had his hands around my throat and was trying to choke me. I was fighting him off, and then it seemed like I was convulsing and passed out. So that was interesting, and learn that you need to protect yourself before you do this beforehand.
Yeah.
Oh, eerie, man, eerie.
Don't like that one. Don't like that one.
No. Let's move on here. Marianne says, I saw a scratching post move 3 feet across the floor by itself.
Okie dokie.
That's
that
not
would
good.
Be a little scary. That'd be scary.
William, falling in love these past couple of weeks. Bad. Boo. Boo. Rich Giordano. My spiritual attack from doing over 120 Ouija board sessions trying to contact the devil to sell my soul. If you don't know the story, just ask or find it on the Paranormal Code show on Spreaker or goofon.org. You got to find that story. You know, one of these nights, I'm actually going to bring Rich on to tell this entire story. It is freaky. Absolutely freaky. Yes. All right. Yes. Kelly gets the final one. Paranormal experience of 2018, finding Spaced Out Radio. Also, my wife and I were at home by ourselves one day and told the dogs to be quiet. As soon as they quieted down, we distinctly heard a woman in the living room say, "Ouch!" I grabbed the shotgun to clear the house. I'm in Florida. You are issued a shotgun when you move here, and found nothing. Odd thing is, we are the first tenants in our apartment. Strange indeed. Olive, where can people find Paranoia Magazine, my friend?
ParanoiaMagazine.com, Paranoia Magazine on Facebook, and listen to the podcast. It's fun.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, of course, all of the SOR news can be found on our website, spacedoutradio.com. Click on the news banner or give our Facebook page a like for it. It is facebook.com/SOR Newswire, put together by the Rob Zombie-loving Captain Shirk. She loves the UFOs. I want to say a big thank you to David Weatherly and Ross Allison for coming in, talking about haunted ships and lighthouses, their newest co-authored book of their haunted series. It can be found on Amazon. Tomorrow night on the show, we're talking the Bell Witch. Pat Fitzhugh will join us at 9:06 Pacific, 12:06 a.m. Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Big thank you to everybody in the chat rooms tonight and on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio. Appreciate all of you veterans also listening in. And, of course, everybody at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. Thanks for talking about us. Thanks for listening in. Thanks for sharing our show. Because together, my friends, we're watching. We own the night. I will talk to you in 21 hours from now. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.